Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Daphne and I make videos on home decor and DIY projects, and in today's video we are making some top-rated Urban Outfitters DIYs. I absolutely love Urban Outfitters home section. I can browse their products for ages, but some of them I find are extremely and unnecessarily overpriced. So if you like their stuff, you will definitely find this video helpful because you could recreate these products and save a lot of money by doing so. So I will be featuring two DIYs today. One needs power tools and the other one doesn't. So if you're not confident using power tools, I've got you covered too. Also, I tried using materials I already had for these DIYs, and I'm happy to say that the only thing I had to buy was black thread. So hopefully that will inspire you to look at your own stash and use things that you already own to create some beautiful DIYs for your home. And before we jump into today's video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and join the Craftydust family if you haven't already. Guys, we adopted a kitten about a week ago. We found him crying on the street and he's just chilling on the couch right now. But without further ado, let's get started on our DIYs.
For my first project, I will be recreating this knockout plant stand, which sells for $59 or 49 euros if you're in Europe. And to start with, I will be using 4 pieces of wood, which will be the legs of the stand. The wood I am using is 1.8 inches wide, 1 inch thick, and I want each piece to be 20 inches long. So I am measuring 20 inches and drawing a straight line to mark where I'm going to make my cuts. And by the way, guys, the total length of wood I used is 8 feet, but I would highly suggest you buy at least 10 feet to make sure you have enough wood in case you make a wrong cut. And I've also added the dimensions and products used in the description box for your convenience. So then, to create the tilted legs, I measured 0.6 inches in from the beam's edge, and I drew a diagonal line from that point to the edge of the opposite side. Once I was done with these 4 pieces, I made my markings on the middle pieces as well, which will connect each of the 2 legs. I am essentially creating 2 capital H shapes with an opening in the middle so that one shape sits on the other, if that makes sense. And I'm also making a small opening in the middle so I can merge them together. So I will be making them 8 inches long, and that's because the plant pot I will be using is a little bit smaller than 8 inches. I marked the middle point and then I placed another beam on the center to mark the edges, double checked it's about 0.5 inches on each side, and now I am ready for all my cuts. I used my jigsaw for all my cuts, and I first cut the short edge and then the long edge for the legs, and I wasn't too worried about making the cuts perfect because I will be sanding everything later on. Then I cut the connecting pieces and made the openings in the middle as well, and cutting that part was a little bit tricky because I had to make some diagonal cuts in order to create an opening for the blade. It wasn't difficult to do so, it just took a few more cuts, but when I was done with both, I checked that they merged correctly and that they create a flat surface for the pot to sit on. Next, I sanded the cut edges with an 80 grit sandpaper, and I also put all the pieces next to each other to ensure they are symmetrical as much as possible. Then I sanded all my wood pieces with a 220 grit sandpaper to prepare them for staining. Once I was done with sanding, I made my marks for the screw holes. My plant pot is 5.5 inches tall, so I made my marks between the 6.5 and 8 inch points. I will be making 2 screw holes on each piece, so I divided the area in 3 equal parts and marked the outer one on each side. I did that on 1 piece of wood and used this as a guide to mark the other 3 as well. Then I drilled the holes. I could have done this step after staining the wood, but I decided to do it beforehand in case the wood chipped and I had to cover it with wood filler. Once all the holes were made, I used them as a guide to drill the holes on the connecting pieces, and then I wiped off the sand with a clean cloth. also made an opening for the screw heads to sit in with a flat drill bit. If you don't have a flat drill bit, you can just use any drill bit of the same size as the screw head. I wiped off the sand again and then I stained everything apart from the outer sides of the legs, and that's because I will be using wood filler later on to cover the screw heads. The stain I used is a water-based walnut stain and I only applied one layer. Once dry, I assembled the legs together and I made sure that the legs were on a flat surface and that the tilted side looked outwards and the straight side inwards to ensure it is steady when assembled. I also applied a lot of pressure with my knee and my free hand to sort of push the two pieces together so that there is no gap in between. Note that when assembling the pieces, one connecting part should look downwards and the other one upwards. I also tightened everything with a hand screwdriver to make sure it is 100% strong and secure, and then I assembled the stand to make sure it is steady. Next, I covered up all the screw heads with wood filler, and once it was completely dry, I sanded it, wiped off the sand, and stained it with the same wood stain color. I let it dry for a couple of hours and my knockdown plant stand dupe was ready. You can definitely do this project in a day or two depending on how long you're going to let the stain and wood filler dry for, and I think it turned out very pretty and very similar to the original one. All in all, it definitely adds character to the rest of my plant collection and I'm very happy to have created it.
For my second project, I will be making this beautiful moon phase wall hanging, which sells for $29 or 24 euros. And I'm starting off by measuring my fabric, which is 100% cotton canvas, by the way. And the Urban Outfitters one is 34 inches tall and 7 inches wide. Mine was 35 inches tall, which is perfect because I will be folding the corners. And so I measured 9 inches width and cut my fabric. Then I folded the long edges about an inch, went over them with a warm iron, and I also ironed the fabric to get rid of any wrinkles as much as possible. Then I applied hot glue where the fabric folds to secure it. I used hot glue because I didn't have any fabric glue and it worked out just fine. It took about 20 to 30 seconds to fully dry, so you have to work fast. I did the same thing on the short edges, only I folded 1.5 inches instead of 1 inch, and on one side I only applied glue on the edge of the folded section because I wanted to create an opening for the wooden dowel I will be using to hang it up. My dowel is 1 inch wide, that's why I made the folded section 1.5 inches so that there's enough space for the dowel to pass through. Now that all my edges and corners are complete, I folded the fabric in half to find the center and used this round cardboard cord to make all the shapes. I got this cardboard piece from a package I received once and I knew it would be useful one day, and I've used this many times for many projects. But if you don't have one, you can use anything round or cut a round piece from a cardboard box. So I placed the circle on the center of the canvas, double checked it's centered with a tape measure, and then I drew my full moon. I left about 1 inch between each shape and always checked with my tape measure that the cardboard piece is centered. I drew a full circle for each moon phase because that made it easier for me to draw the final shape, and when I was happy with the shape I made, I erased the excess with a pencil eraser. On the second moon phase, I freehanded the curve, but for the rest of the shapes, I used the cardboard to create a beautiful moon curve. And I know it looks a little bit messed up right now, but once colored, it looks completely transformed. Next, I painted all the moon phases with black fabric paint using a flat brush, and I really wanted the outline and edges to be crisp, so I was really careful when it came to painting that part, because I feel like when painting such shapes that are well formed, and on fabric especially, there is no room for mistakes, so I'd rather spend a little bit more time doing a thorough job than messing it up and having to do it all over again from the beginning. And in this case, I found it easier to start with a very thin layer on the outline and then fill it in, and when I was done with painting, look how beautiful it turned out. So next, I took a square wooden dowel. I measured a total of 9.5 inches, so essentially 1.5 inches extra on either side, and cut it with a handsaw. I smoothed out the cut edge with a 220 grit sandpaper, and then I marked 0.6 inches on either side to drill a hole. If you don't have a drill, you can skip this part and just wrap a piece of string around it instead of passing it through the hole. I used some macrame cord, but the cord I had was too thick, so I removed one ply to make it thinner, and then I used a drill bit to pass it through. If you don't have one, you can use a hairpin or a needle. I tied a knot, cut the excess, and then I repeated the same process on the other side. I'm ready for the final step, which is to create a fringe, and to do that I am using an 18-inch long and about 2.5 to 3 inches wide piece of fabric. I am folding one of the long edges and both short edges about 1 inch, going over them with a warm iron and securing them with hot glue just like I did in the beginning. Then I took some black cotton thread, I wrapped it around my fingers about 20 times and hot glued it on the folded section. I repeated the same process until I filled half of the length, which by the way I completely forgot to do, and then I had to pull out 3 glued sections, which wasn't that easy, but then I folded my fabric in half and secured it with hot glue. Finally, I hot glued this section on the back side of the bottom of the wall hanging, and then I cut the fringe. And that finishes off my moon phase wall hanging. It was very easy to make, definitely doable in a few hours, and it turned out so pretty, and honestly, I think it looks identical to the Urban Outfitters one. And those, you guys, were my DIYs. I think both of them turned out very pretty, and I think especially the wall hanging turned out identical to the Urban Outfitters one. It was super easy to make and it was definitely worth the effort. And I say effort because it was really not that effortful to make. So if you liked today's video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below which one your favorite was. And also if you like these dupe type of videos so I can do more of them in the future, as well as if you have any suggestions, I would love to know. Also, if you ever recreate any of my DIYs, please don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your guys' take on my projects. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and join the Craftydust family, and also click on that notification bell to get notified whenever a new video comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!